Hello, my name is Dean Contover. This is Current Buzz. Thank you for watching today. We have Paul Lappin as our guest today. He's the Executive Secretary of the Moses Greeley Parker Lectures. They've been going on since 1917, and they go on in Lowell. Maybe we can get some lectures in Chelmsford someday. I'll have to talk to him about it. But Paul, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it very much.
Welcome.
He's going to explain what the Moses Greeley Parker Lectures are, and it's very important that you hear this because they're back. COVID sort of killed you guys, killed everyone. That's why I'm having you here, so we could talk about the lecture series. I've been going to the lecture series in the last 30 years. I don't want to give away my age, but so off and on, when I have occasion and somebody of interest that's there, I do go, and it's very interesting. You can get from 5 to 100 people there at different times. So it's important that you go online, am I correct? And the information is there. And we're going to talk to the executive secretary and how he became an executive secretary. Tell me about Moses Greeley Parker Lectures. What are they? Who funds them, etc.?
Okay. Well, as you already mentioned, going back to the death of Dr. Parker back in 1917, he stipulated in his will that X amount of money be set aside for the continuation or a lecture series. And I'm sure you also know that because of his involvement in AT&T and New England Telephone, and he went to a lecture one day given by Alexander Graham Bell, and he was so impressed with this lecture that he secretly became an investor in New England Telephone, and then ultimately one of the largest shareholders in American Telephone and New England Telephone.
That's not bad.
Not bad, starting out with 10 shares. You know?
Yeah. So he was involved with Alexander Graham Bell, or he just met him at the lecture and they continued friendship? Or?
They continued friendship, and he actually had a phone installed in his house. He lived on First Street at the time, which was in Drake. Now it's part of Lowell on the boulevard.
Okay.
And his office was across the river, and he had the wires strung across the river so that he could communicate between his house and his office.
Oh, okay. And at that time, they didn't have telephone numbers, so it was a direct line from his house to the office.
It may have gone through a switchboard, but until there was more than one person in the city that had one, you didn't really need a switchboard operator.
Speaking of that, do you remember party lines?
Sure, we had one.
Oh, you did? Your family had one?
We had one at our summer house up in Seabrook.
Okay, explain what a party line is, because I'm sorry, we're getting a little off, but it's important that you explain what a party line is to people.
Well, the phone would ring, and if it only rang like when we wouldn't answer it. But if it rang ring, ring, then we would pick up.
So there could be 3, 4, 5 people on that line.
Yeah, I think we only had 2, but
oh, okay.
You know,
yeah, I know.
A lot of people didn't even have phones.
Yeah, I know.
Back in the 50s down there.
I know, and now we have all this. I mean, we have this phone. Now, let me explain to you this phone. You know that you have a phone number on this phone. If it wasn't for Moses Greeley Parker, right? Moses, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You wouldn't have a phone number. He more or less invented the phone number.
It was his suggestion to Alexander Graham Bell because he was afraid that during one of the measles epidemics back in the 1870s or 90s, whatever it was, that if the switchboard ladies got sick, because they had it all memorized.
Right.
You would crank your phone, Mabel would pick up and you'd say, "Hi, Mabel, have a Gans?" No, say, "Hey, Mabel, I want to talk to Mr. Jones." And she would know where Mr. Jones was, so she would take the wire here, plug it up there, and it would ring in the Jones household. But if all those women got sick all of a sudden, then nobody would remember whose little connection had to be made So his suggestion was, let's give everybody an exchange number. So in essence, a telephone number. And after a while, they had that, and they printed one of the earliest telephone directories here in Lowell, Courier Citizen.
So that's why Courier had the market on telephone directories.
That's what I was told. So
Yeah, no. I mean, I understand the premise and everything.
Yeah.
I think I got a telephone directory the other day that they sent to my house. Yeah, I think it was sent in my house, and I was kind of surprised they still made directories.
yeah, they're very tiny now.
Yeah, they're
mostly
yes.
ads.
Yeah, they're ads and it's small print and you can't see it. You need glasses to see, just see it, or magnifying glass. But it's interesting. That is history. Those phone books, people kept those phone books to do research on it. Whether
sure.
a person said they lived at this particular address, they would go to the phone directory and find out whether they really lived at that address or had that phone number.
I would assume that all the local libraries have a collection of old phone books, and if they don't, they have it on microfilm or microfiche.
Yeah,
So you could do that
or
genealogy
they
search.
they scanned them now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, things have changed. So, what is the mission of the lectures?
So the purpose, according to Dr. Parker, was for the citizens of Lowell and the surrounding communities to come and hear things that would pertain to health, education, medicine, and government.
Okay.
It was like 4 broad areas.
All right.
And then over the years, we've expanded on that a little bit, but we try to hit some of those things.
All right. So, how long have you been executive secretary?
I've been executive secretary for approximately 30 years.
Why haven't we met before? I've seen that.
Well,
I
I've
went
seen
to
you at the lectures.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I was recently at a recent lecture that you had a woman from
Worcester
Museum talking about
the baseball uniforms.
uniforms.
She was very good.
Yeah, she was very good. I got her email. She gave me her email. I emailed her to have her on the show. She never contacted me, again. But I might try it again. But yeah, it varies. I mean, the next one I want to go to is the honeybee lecture, and then it varies to a gentleman who wrote a book on Dolan is his name.
Yes, he's coming up. Tomorrow night will be the honeybee one.
Okay.
At the Pollard Library, 7 p.m.
Right.
Masks are mandatory.
Okay.
And then October 9th will be the one following that, which is part of Lowell Celebrates Kerouac.
Kerouac, right.
Yep. And Steve O'Connor is one of the speakers of the series.
Yeah, I know
and
Steve very well, yeah.
Every year we try to make a contribution to celebrate Kerouac.
Right.
And pay the speaker.
Did you know that I met him? I won't tell you where, but it was...
Steve?
No, Kerouac.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
The White Eagle? Or?
Funny that you ask. It was the Highland Top.
Okay.
He came in and he was late 40s, and he was obnoxiously drunk. And or inebriated, I'm sorry, and started saying that this bar was a Irish bar. I didn't know there was ethnic bars, but he got into that rant. And Walter Lord was with him, his agent, and I spoke to him because he was from New York and he was dressed in a double-breasted suit. I remember that. And we started talking, and we wound up playing pool. I wound up playing pool with Jack Kerouac, But that's another story for another time, right? Yeah, so you're going to have O'Connor, well-known name in Lowell, great writer. I consider him the best the best writer in Lowell since Jack Kerouac.
Well, that's high praise.
Well, I mean, he's the only one. How's that?
Well, I've known Steve for many years. I used to work at the Greater Lowell Technical High School.
That's right, he worked there.
Steve worked there, and we've known each other since
Did
then.
he recently retire?
Me or him?
No, him.
I hope he did. I'm not sure.
Oh, we'll find out on the 8th, right? I mean,
The 9th, yeah.
yeah, the 9th, I'm sorry. And then you're going to have the guy from, wrote about hurricanes, Donlin
Yes.
from Marblehead. I read that book. I used to live in Isla Morada in the Florida Keys, so I know very well about how they celebrate hurricanes. You know how they celebrate hurricanes? When a hurricane is coming, they celebrate the hurricane that's coming, they celebrate past hurricanes, and they celebrate the future hurricanes.
Well,
So, because they get a day off of work, so they get inebriated. So, let's go back to the. So you said, how do you find out to have these people in? I mean, do they get paid? Do they get a stipend?
almost everybody gets a stipend.
Okay.
Yes. Some people refuse to take it, and we've had some who have donated their stipend to charitable causes.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's it. And some people have pocketed it.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
It's up to them.
Yeah, right. Okay, so so you get these. So in other words, people can call you or email you and say, "Hey, listen, I know this author. I think it might be interesting to have him come to your lecture or speak at your lecture," and you would say nay or yay or.
Well, I'll always say I'll look into it, and then I look into it, and if I think it's going to be of interest, and if that other person is available, then we try to make it happen. Many times I get my speakers from reading the Boston Globe, especially the Sunday, and the back of it, there's that section about books and book reviews.
Oh, right, right.
So if I see a speaker coming in, then I highlight it, I clip it, then I try to find the person's phone number and make a personal contact and make it work.
You know who I'd like you to have is the guy who sells books in Boston. What's his name? Just to remember. It's on West Street in Boston.
Yeah.
That would be interesting because
I know the person you're referring to, and I did speak with him many years ago about doing it, and at the time, we were only doing lectures on Sundays. And he said he couldn't make it on a Sunday if it was going to be some other day of the week, or,
there you go.
I don't know if it was the Battle Bookstore.
Yeah, Brattle Street Bookstore. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a suggestion. If you're cutting things out of the back page, I mean, he's knowledgeable.
Yeah, very.
I mean,
yeah.
He's on Antique Roadshow, so I could see him coming next year. I hope.
Yeah.
You know.
We could try again.
Yeah. Dr. Moses Greeley Parker, I don't know whether he's related to, we're at the Parker Middle School. I don't know whether his family's related, but we'd have to do the genealogy on that. But I'd just like to talk to people just about him. He was born in Drake, Massachusetts, is that correct? He went to Harvard Medical School.
Yes. Yeah, got a degree from Harvard.
Yeah, he was a physician out of Harvard Medical School and got out just in the middle of Civil War. They let them out early so they could be a physician. He was, what the information that I have, he was assigned to the 57th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, right? And then he was assigned on April 1864 to the 2nd U.S. Colored Cavalry.
Yes.
Which lost half the men. So he didn't save very many.
There was much they could do back then.
Yeah,
You know,
most of it.
They were hacking off limbs.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say that's. How about sawing?
All right, they would saw.
Yes, sir. in warfare, most of the people died of diseases in warfare because the people were together all the time. So they decided to do that. He came out of the military. He was involved with General Butler, Lieutenant General Butler from Lowell. That's who knew him and wanted him to come into the military as a physician. And then he came out, right? And met Alexander Graham Bell, right? And he bought stock in the company, then invented the telephone number that we all use. And he must have been multimillionaire in those days.
Yes, I would assume.
Because the lectures have been going on since 1917.
Right.
So.
And they will go on forever because the money has been set aside, and essentially we live off the interest every year. So
you do live off
the principal will fluctuate depending on the stock market.
Right.
But,
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So it'll go on
forever.
Do you ever think of having lectures at the Chelmsford Library, Tewksbury Library, Drake Library?
We'd love to do that, but the will stipulates that it's in Lowell. I mean, the Moses Greeley Parker Library in Drake was funded through Dr. Parker.
Right.
And sure, we'd love to have it there, but it's just, we can't do it.
How about having a contract or incorporate Chelmsford for a day or something like that, you know? Like they do in football contracts and baseball contracts, a day
But we get
contract.
a lot of people from Chelmsford that come to our lectures.
Yeah.
So, and that's why when you asked me to participate, I said, sure, why not?
Is it mostly at the Pollard Library in downtown Lowell?
This season, we might be there a majority of the time, but we'll use the National Park occasionally.
Okay.
Boarding House Park. We have one event this year scheduled at the Quilt Museum.
Okay.
And the Steve O'Connor is, I believe that's taking place at St. Anne's Church.
It is. Yeah, it's going to be at St. Anne's Church. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm going to try to get to that to see him there. I haven't seen him in a while. We're both big soccer fans, so he's played soccer and I played soccer. But so do you get people all the time in the Kerouac week that they have events that speak on Kerouac? I mean, let's say they have writers coming to town.
Yeah.
You have.
I know the people who put together the Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, and they know me, so every year they say, would you be willing to sponsor our speaker? And for many years now, we've said yes.
Good. I'm glad. It's part of Lowell. He was a writer, post-World War II writer. If you don't know who Jack Kerouac is, he's famous, and there's a sign on the highway saying Jack Kerouac's birthplace. If you look at it, it's a blue sign. So what's the plan for next year? Do you know? I mean, do you have any foresight to that, or?
I generally start planning next year, this coming spring.
I see.
But because of everything that happened in the last few years, things have been so messed up.
I like
It's
that
hard to
word.
get people to commit to something so far in advance when we don't know if we can even meet.
Yeah. And then to put it out, put it on the website and saying they're going to be there because it might change. And
Right. This is the first year that we haven't actually printed our calendar of events.
Interesting. Yeah, usually you'd have a little pocket.
We used to have little pocket ones, and then they've gotten bigger over time.
Okay.
This year we have maybe 10 to 12 events. In the past, we've had as many as 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
That many.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. So basically one a week, roughly.
Well,
Because it's
some
what?
months, yeah, we try to stay away from the bad weather weeks, but
Yeah, good point. So do I when I'm doing this show. I understand what you're saying. So from September through June, or does it go into the summer?
It could go into June, yeah.
Okay, it could go into June.
Right.
So we're dealing basically from September to June, and probably not around Christmas. And
I think I have one event in December. So, for example, we have one October 6th, October 9th, October 23rd, November 3rd, November 14th, December 4th, and then we don't do anything until April. And in April this year, April 3rd, we're bringing back the Tamburitzans, which...
I don't know who they are.
The Tamburitzans. Well, earlier you mentioned how, we could have 10 or we could have 100 people. When we have the Tamburitzans, we're talking hundreds, sometimes
You're kidding
1,000
me.
people. Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Tell me who the Tamburitzans are. I'm sorry.
They're from Duquesne University out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they are a Eastern European folk dance ensemble. So they play the music, they play the tamburitza, they dance.
What country? Do we know exactly?
It's all Eastern European.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean that these students are from any one of these. As far as I know, they're all American kids.
No kidding.
But they sing and dance in the native language, yeah, and play the music.
Wow. And people come from...
From miles around, yep.
How come
When the Tamburitzans normally perform, and are you familiar with the Whiff and Puffs from Yale University?
The Whip and Post?
Whiff and Puffs. Well, anyways,
okay.
another group.
No, I'm not.
When people follow them, they're used to paying to see them. But with the Parker Lecture Series, everything has always been free of charge. So you get to see a show for the Tamburitzans that if it was going to be held in Boston, you might pay $35 a ticket.
Wow. So where would you hold the venue? Where would the venue be for Tamburitzans?
Well, in April, we're going to be at the Cyrus Irish Auditorium, Lowell High School Auditorium.
Okay.
They have a big enough stage.
How long is that
capacity.
show then?
An hour and a half, 2 hours.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic show.
I'm
You
gonna
really got to see that one.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just put it on my calendar.
You can Google that when you go home,
Yeah.
and you'll see all kinds of videos, and you'll give you a
Oh,
good
no
idea
kidding.
of what they look
Oh,
like.
good point. Good point. Yeah.
Uh,
So that's good. So you have an events where there's no charge, and people pick up on it and
Yep.
travel for miles and miles and miles and miles.
Especially if they want to see their friends and family members from Duquesne University. Yeah.
Wow.
They have quite a following. So they
So
show
where do you
up.
put them up? Do you put them up at a hotel?
No, they come in on a bus that morning, and they go home that night on the
You're
same
kidding
bus.
me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not putting them.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there must be 30 more. 40.
Yeah, there's about 35 people in the whole thing. And
Wow.
They get it all in one big bus.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. All right, I have Paul Lappin. He's the executive secretary of the Moses Greeley Parker Lectures in Lowell, Massachusetts. Definitely go online and check it out. It started in 1917, these lectures, and everybody in Lowell knows about them. The problem is that we have to get people in Greater Lowell to be aware of them. They had problems with, of course, COVID-19, and now they're getting up to speed. We're
trying.
Paul.
Yep, taking it slow this year, but yeah.
If you know of anyone who may be interested, please contact me
Contact directly, send me an email, call me on
yeah,
the phone.
it's basically, just go to Moses Greeley Parker and it'll come up. And
Yeah, we have a website.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it very
Welcome,
much.
Dean. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. I usually shake your hand, but I can't. Boom. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we'll call it a day, and I'm sure that we